So welcome to Deeksha Online NEET crash course. So now we have already completed the synopsis. Now we are going to discuss about some of the important practice questions so that you get an idea of what to look forward to in your NEET examination. First, let us deal with the questions. That is, we are starting from the living world. Okay. Now the first question says, which of the following taxonomic category contain organisms with least similar characteristics? Now if you remember, please quickly you can draw the taxonomic hierarchy. We started with species. Species are put together, similar species are put together in genus. Similar genera are put together in the same family. Similar families are put together in the same order. Similar orders are put together in the same class. Similar classes are put together in the same phyla, and those are similar phyla which are put together in the same kingdom. Now, one thing you should remember is as we go higher up the ladder, the similarities decrease. Exactly. So you should remember that the similarity falls as you go up the ladder, isn't it? Now, do you remember the analogy I had given you? Yes, let us recall that analogy again. Now, you have sections, you have class, and you have standards, and you have college. Now, say in section you have section A, section B, section C, section D. Section A and B are put under the NEET section. Section C and D are put under the JE section. Both of these are put under the 12th standard, but we also have 11th standard kids in our institution called Deeksha. Okay, now how do you explain this? Now this is the ladder you're climbing. You're going up the ladder from the lowest step to the highest step. Take a student from section A and take a student from section B. Don't you think that a student from the two different sections are more closely related or have more similarity than, say, a student from one class and another class? Isn't it? So obviously section A and section B are more similar. Class NEET and class JE are less similar. So you jumped one step from section, you jump to the next hierarchy, that is the class, and you saw that what has decreased? Similarity has decreased. So which one you should choose here? As you go up the ladder, similarity decreases, and as a result you have to choose the highest linear hierarchy here. The highest linear hierarchy is the class. Did you understand? So answer is option C. So just like I'm repeating again, a student from section A and section B share more similarity than a student from class NEET and class JE. So between sections there is more similarity, between classes there is less similarity. Similarly, between species there is more similarity, there is less similarity between genera, less similarity between family, less similarity between order. So as we go up the ladder, similarities are decreasing. Second question, which taxonomic category contains organisms belonging to the same class? Same class means, again you should write down class, which is the rank below class. Sorry. So below the class you have order. You have put many orders which are similar to each other in the same class. So same class includes what? It includes different orders. Why have you put different orders in the same class? Because they share some similarity. So answer is third option. A genus with a single species is referred to as a monotypic genus. Say for example Mangifera indica. This is only an example. Say indica is the only species under Mangifera genus. Then we call Mangifera as monotype. Okay. So it is second option. Fourth one. Genus is a group of related species, because the species is the bottom of the ladder and above the species we have genus. We have put together related species in the same genus. A binomial nomenclature has two names. What are those two names? Generic and specific name. Yes. So it is option A. The biological name should be Option A says it should be printed in italics. Option B says it should be Latinized. So both option A and option B make sense to us. Greek is not the correct answer. It should not be in Greek. It should be Latinized. So the correct answer is both 1 and 2. So it is option D. Next, the seventh question says, in a scientific name, every name has two words. What are they? The genus name and the specific name. Now let us read the options. The first letter of the genus is written in capital. Correct. The first letter of the species is written in small. Correct. Every name is followed by author citation. Not necessarily. So basically we have both A and B are correct. So it is option D. Holotype is, the first option says it is a typical specimen designated by the author for nomenclature and publication. So this is the correct answer. Now for example, there is an author. Now this author has described a species and he has given the species a name and he has also given description to the species and he has published this in a research paper. He's a taxonomist, so he keeps publishing his work in a research paper. Now suppose you go to him and ask, okay, I read your research paper. In your research paper, you had given a name to your species. You had described the species. Show me that animal. Say for example, he's an animal taxonomist. Then he will bring that specimen and he will show it to you. See, this is the specimen that I had named and this is the specimen that I have chosen as a descriptor. This suits the description of the species that I have described in my research paper. That particular specimen that is chosen by the author is referred to as a holotype. Next, criteria employed for modern classification of organisms based on. Now, modern classification, we not only take into account the external features, but we also take into account anatomical and physiological traits. Isn't it? So, we take not only the external appearance or the morphology, but we also take into account the internal structure or the anatomy and also the functional aspect of it. So it is the second answer. 10th one, a population of similar organisms capable of interbreeding to form fertile offspring is very simple. Species. A species is a group of organisms which can potentially interbreed to produce fertile offspring because they are genetically very closely related. What is binomial epithet? The next question talks about something called a binomial epithet. A binomial epithet includes genus name, species name, and author's name affixed to it in abbreviated form. Like for example, in the synopsis we had discussed, if you write Mangifera indica Lin, isn't it? Now here, this is the genus name, this is the species name, and the author who described it for the first time, his name is put in abbreviated version here, and this is what these three together constitute something called a binomial epithet. So the answer is C. 11th answer is C. 12th one, a species is taxonomically, yes, it is a fundamental unit when you take into account the evolutionary history of an organism, and yes, it is a group of evolutionarily and related populations. So species is nothing but a group of related population, and yes, when you designate species, you take into account its evolutionary or phylogenetic history. So it is both A and B, that is option D. 13th one, the founder of taxonomy is Aristotle, the father of modern taxonomy, who wrote a book called Species Plantarum. He wrote the book Species Plantarum in 1753, and now he wrote another book in 1758. He published a book in 1758, the 10th edition of, now you will find out the answer to this. So one book is already mentioned here. Now who is this person? Obviously, he is the father of modern taxonomy, Carolus Linnaeus. Species name is not used alone because sometimes same species name may be used with different genera. This becomes a problem because if you simply use species, say for example, I will give you a very simple example here. Phaseolus vulgaris, Hordeum vulgaris. They are not related. They have different genus names, but see, their species name is the same. Now, one of them is a bean, and one of them is barley. So, if I simply say vulgaris, you will not know what I'm talking about because both of them, even though they are not related, only their name is the same, their species name is the same. That's the reason why you should not use it alone. So, it is option C. Which of the following is not a category? What is a category? A category is an abstract term, whereas here aves is a group of real organisms. When I say aves, you can picture birds flying in the air. So aves is not a category or a rank, it is a taxon. Yes or no? So it is option A. Then what would be the category for aves? You can put aves under class. Class aves. So class becomes a category or rank. It is an abstract term, and aves, which is a group of real organisms, becomes the taxon. Okay. Okay, now let us move on to the next chapter, that is biological classification. So let us discuss some of the questions from biological classification now. What is not true for monorins? Monorins are prokaryotic. The first option says they reproduce by mitosis and sexual reproduction. How can they reproduce by sexual reproduction? Sexual reproduction means gamete formation and fusion. Mitosis means what you see in eukaryotic cells. So this statement, that is option A, is not true for monorins. Everything else is true. They don't have histone proteins. That's why their DNA is naked. Most of them have cell walls and they are prokaryotic. But they're asking which is not true. So they cannot reproduce by mitosis and sexual reproduction. Under optimal condition, a bacterial cell divides every once in 20 minutes. They want us to find out how many bacteria are produced at the end of 2 hours. Now 2 hours means how many minutes? 120 minutes. So how many intervals of 20 minutes do we require to reach 120 minutes? So let us write here. Let me first take 0th minute. Then 20 minutes passed, 20th minute. Then another 20 minutes pass, 40th minute. Another 20 minutes pass, 60th minute. 80th minute. 20 minutes, there's a 20-minute gap everywhere. 80 plus 20 is 100 minute. And 100 minute, we end up with 2 hours, that is 120th minute. So all of you remember, there is a gap of 20 minutes in between each interval that I have chosen over here. At the 0th minute, we had one bacteria with us, and we know that after 20 minutes interval, it becomes 2. So at the 20th minute, it has become 2. By the 40th minute, 2 has become 4. By the 60th minute, 4 has doubled into 8. By the 80th minute, again a 20 minute where each one doubles, 8 doubles into 16. 16 doubles in the next 20 minutes, that is by the 100th minute into 32. And 32 doubles into 64 by the end of 2 hours. So the answer is 64. That is the last option. Tuberculosis and leprosy are caused by Mycobacterium tuberculosis and Mycobacterium leprae. So it is option A. Okay. Then in Protista, phagotrophic nutrition is found in all of these organisms that belong to phylum Protista. They depend on food sources from the outside environment, even though Euglena is capable of photosynthesis. When sunlight is not available, Euglena exhibits heterotrophic nutrition. So all of these, that is option D. A naked sporangium occurs in all the slime molds. Okay, so answer is C. You know what a slime mold is? It has a mass of protoplasm with many nuclei in it, and during unfavorable condition it develops fruiting bodies which are nothing but sporangia, and these sporangia will produce spores, isn't it? The sporangia is also naked, it is not covered with any cell wall. The entire plasmodium also has only a covering of plasma membrane. There is no covering of cell wall. That's why we call them as naked. Initially they were thought to be fungi, but now they are placed under kingdom Protista. The flagellate structures in acellular slime mold. Now what I just spoke of, where there is a mass of protoplasm. What am I showing here? I am showing nuclei here. So this mass of protoplasm without any cell wall, this naked mass of protoplasm is what we call an acellular slime mold, or we call it as plasmodial slime molds. Acellular or plasmodial slime molds. Now during unfavorable condition, they develop the sporangia like this, and the sporangia produce spores. See, the spores are coming out. Now some of the spores, when they open or when they germinate, they produce these amoeboid cells. And some of these spores, when they germinate, they produce these elongated cells which have flagella at their ends. Now here they are asking, now mostly the flagellate structures they are asking about here, isn't it? So I told you the cells which are amoeboid. Now I'm highlighting this here. Some of the spores produce cells which are amoeboid. These are referred to as mix amoebae, or simply mix amoeba, singular, and these are referred to as the swarm cells. Did you understand what I'm saying? So swarm cells are the answer to this question, because they are not talking about this amoeboid cells, they are talking about these flagellated cells. So remember, these are obtained from the spores, and the spores surprisingly have cell walls in them. This is another unique feature, and these are referred to as these erect structures which develop from the plasmodia, plural sporangia. Okay, so it is option B. Red oceanic tides is because of dinoflagellates like gymnodinium and goniolax. So you've learned the examples also. Some of them, when they reproduce and when they develop in huge numbers, they impart a coloration to the waves in the sea, and that is what is referred to as the red tides. So it is a feature of dinoflagellates. Euglenoid movement is called metaboly. So it is the third option, even though you would like to call it as a flagellar motion. Flagella is because of the flagellar, locomotion is because of the whip-like flagella that it has. And euglena also, the entire cell of euglena. Now you know how a euglena looks like. So it is a single cellular organism, and on the surface, just below the plasma membrane, it has a structure, a proteinaceous structure, or a layer called pellicle. In the pellicle, it has contractile protein strands which are helically arranged along the axis of the cell body, as you can see over here, and these contractile proteinaceous structures are called the myonemes. Now these myonemes will help the euglena to exhibit a wriggling movement in its body, like a worm-like movement, and that worm-like movement exhibited by the euglena is referred to as metaboly. Okay? The fungus which is commonly associated with endomycorrhiza, you know that endomycorrhiza are associations between the fungal hyphae and roots of higher plants and found within the cells of the roots. Okay, so mostly the fungus which is involved here is zygomycetes, so it is option A. Conidia are produced directly on a structure in penicillium. In penicillium, there are flask-like structures. Now, for example, if this is the conidiophore and erect hypha, there is a swollen end like this, and on this swollen region, you find such flask-like structures which are arranged, and these are the flask-like structures from which you get these chains and chains of these cells which are referred to as the conidia. So these flasks-like structures are called sterigmata, or they're also called the phyalides. The phyalides or the sterigmata are the structures which bear the conidiospores. So it is the third option. Fungi lacking cross walls. When a fungus has a hypha, we had learnt it in the synopsis. If this is the hypha and if it is just a mass of protoplasm with many nuclei without any cross wall, we call it as what? We call it as aseptate and cenocytic, and the class which includes aseptate and cenocytic hyphae is Phycomycetes. Okay, then the smallest virus among the following is hepatitis virus. Now there is a little bit of information, you can say ambiguity between hepatitis B and pox virus. Now the data says that hepatitis virus can have a diameter between 30 nanometer to 42 nanometer, and the pox virus is 30 nanometer alone. So if you consider that, then we can say that among the following, the pox virus happens to be the smallest. Okay. 13th one, all viruses are entirely obligate parasites. Why are they obligate? Obligate means compulsorily they are parasitic because they cannot live outside the host system. The concept of contagium vivum fluidum, viruses being a contagious fluid, was provided by M.W. Beijerinck. So it is option C. And who is considered as the father of virology, who also happens to be the person who coined the term viruses? It was D.J. Ivanovsky in the year 1892. So this is option A. Now moving on to the next chapter, that is animal kingdom. So question 1 is, which of the following is an exclusive character of Mammalia? Now exclusive means there shouldn't be any mammal which does not express this character. So we have presence of muscular diaphragm, which divides the body cavity into thoracic and abdominal, is one of the features which is considered to be an exclusive feature of class Mammalia. Okay. However, they have also mentioned another important thing over here, internal fertilization. So in my opinion, there is not a single mammal which exhibits external fertilization. All mammals also exhibit. So we can say it is both option D and option C. Okay. Exclusive character of class Mammalia. You can include both option C and both option D in this. Next, bats can fly at night in the dark because of echolocation. Isn't it? They are capable of emitting ultrasonic waves and which hit a target and reflect back. And this phenomenon is called echolocation. So it is second question, last option. Next, assertion. All birds except the ones like quail build nests for retiring and taking rest during the night time. So it's not like except the quail. The quail also would build the nest. So we would say that assertion is wrong. Then, quail lays the eggs in the nest of a crow, not a tailor bird. So reason is also false. So both assertion and reason are false. So it is the last option. Which of the following group of animals maintain high and constant body temperature, such as mammals? Obviously, it is birds, because birds are also homeothermic. Anti-venin injections which are used against the snake bite. Now, anti-venin meaning they contain antibodies against the snake venom. isn't it? So anti-venom against the snake venom. Now this is the anti-venom injections. They are prepared in Hafkine's, it should be Kine apostrophe S, Hafkine's Research Institute in Mumbai. So the answer is the third option. A lizard like member, sixth question. A lizard like member who is of belonging to class Reptilia, who is sitting on a tree with a prehensile tail which can be coiled around a twig, and that reminds us of a chameleon showing protective coloration. So it is option D. A snake is identified to be having dorsal hexagonal scales. So on the back of the snake, if this is the back of the snake, you can find hexagonal shields on the back of its body, and such hexagonal shields are a feature of Bungarus ceruleus. Okay, so Bungarus ceruleus is commonly called the great, and Hemibungarus is the coral snake. And both of these are the venomous vipers. So the identifying feature, if you look at the back of the snake, you will see these diamond shaped vertebrals which are nothing but scales on the body, and these are referred to as, and this will tell you that it is a crate. Which of the following statements is or are not true? In Urochordata, notochord is present only in larval tail, very much true. In Cephalochordata, notochord is existent from the head to the tail, very much true. Again, it is present throughout the life of the organism, true. Branchiostoma belongs to Hemichordata is false, because Branchiostoma belongs to Cephalochordata. It was earlierly called Amphioxus, now it is called Branchiostoma. Okay, only one class of living members today, class Cyclostomata, represents the superclass Ignatha. Now it is not a superclass Ignatha, it is division Ignatha. So this is also correct, because under Ignatha we have only one living class, which includes Petromyzon or lamprey as well as myxine or hagfishes today. So the only option that is incorrect is the third option over here. So here it was the last option. And for the eighth one, the third option is incorrect, because Brachiostoma belongs to Cephalochordata. Which one of the following statements is totally wrong about the occurrence of notochord? So our important, what we should focus on here is the notochord. It is present throughout the life in Cephalochordata or Amphioxus or Branchiostoma, correct. It is present only in the larval tail in Acidia, which is a Urochordate, it is correct. It is replaced by vertebral column in an adult frog, it is correct. It is absent throughout the life in the humans from the very beginning is false, because notochord is present in humans during embryonic development, and as you all are aware, during the later stages it gets replaced by vertebral column. So only the last option is incorrect. Arrange the shell layers of a pearl oyster in the correct order. Now if you take a shell of a pearl oyster and if you take a section of it and observe it under the microscope, the shell will have a transparent, a translucent brownish green layer on the outside. It is very thin. It is referred to as the periostracum, and inside the periostracum it will have another layer which is referred to as the prismatic layer. This prismatic layer is the one that offers a lot of strength and rigidity to the shell of the oyster, and inside there is another very thin layer which contains parallelly arranged, or you can say alternate patterns of calcium carbonate and a protein called conchiolin, and this layer is called the nacre or the nacreous layer. Now why this layer is so important is because this is called the mother of pearl, and this is the layer that actually secretes the pearl, and down beneath the lowest region you have the epithelial cells, and you all know this is the skin of the mollusk or the oyster which secretes the shell. What do you call this layer of cells which secrete the shell? This is referred to as mantle. So then we saw that there is a layer which offers strength and rigidity, and this layer is also made up of calcium carbonate and conchiolin. However, in nacre you have alternate layers of there is alternate layers of nacre, I mean calcium carbonate, and a special protein that is found only in mollusca, conchiolin. Okay, and this is called the mother of pearl layer, and this layer, which is very very thick, is called the prismatic layer, and the outermost very translucent, very thin and greenish brown layer is called the periostracum. So if you start from outer to inner, you will first come across the periostracum, then you will come across the prismatic layer, then you will come across the mother of pearl or the nacreous layer, and lastly the innermost skin part of it, which secretes the shell. So all this is the shell part, except the mantle. Everything is the shell of the mollusk, and you had to take a thin section of the shell to see these four layers, the three layers. And which is the layer, the innermost layer, which is very close to the skin of the animal, that is the mantle of the animal, is the nacre or the nacreous layer. So the correct answer would be first one, outermost, is periostracum, nacreous, sorry, periostracum, prismatic, nacreous, and mantle. It would be the third option, the correct arrangement of the layers in the shell of a pearl oyster. Which one of the following is a high quality pearl producing species? It is Pinctada margaritifera. So very important. Pinctada margaritifera is the one that produces enormous number of pearls. So it is option D. Then, which of the following is a false statement? All sponges are hermaphrodites. Choanocytes are reproductive in function. This is the wrong statement, because you all are aware the choanocytes are nothing but the collar cells which have flagella on them, which help in creating a suction pressure to draw the water into the sponge body through the ostia, isn't it? So choanocytes have no role to play in reproduction. Sponges are multicellular. Of course, they are multicellular, but they don't have tissue level of organization. Porocytes guard the opening of the ostia and they allow the incurrent flow of water. Everything is correct except the second option. The precious marriage gift in Japan is Euplectella. It should be underlined. All these are scientific names. Euplectella is called the Venus flower basket. Okay, now this Venus flower basket, that is Euplectella, why is it given as a wedding gift? Because it is said that in this basket like structure of the, so basically it is made up of spongin fibers and spicules, so it has a very intricate structure. Okay, and now this Euplectella or the Venus flower basket, two shrimps, they are known to get trapped inside when they are still young. They move into through this intricate network, they get trapped inside the spongocele of this particular sponge, and for the rest of their lives they are trapped over there. The male and the female, they reproduce there and they die also there only. So it is as if it's a symbol of till death do us apart, and therefore it is given as a wedding gift in Japan. So the answer is Euplectella, which is the Venus flower basket. Okay, now these animals, these crustaceans which get trapped inside the Venus flower basket are called the spongicolid shrimps. They are very very small. They get trapped inside when they are small, but however once they grow they cannot escape from the basket, from the sponge, and therefore they spend the rest of their lives together and they produce offsprings. They also die together inside, and that's why it is a symbol of till death do us apart, which is one of the important foundations of marriage, and as a result it is given as a precious marriage gift in Japan. Okay, now coming to the last chapter for this week's crash course NEET, that is structural organization of animals. Vertebrate salivary glands. The first question says vertebrate salivary glands, an exocrine part of the pancreas, are what type of glands? They are merocrine glands. Now what do you mean by merocrine glands? Merocrine glands means if there is a cell and this is involved in producing certain secretions, only the secretions will come out of the cell, only the secretions are let out from the cell, nothing no damage happens to the cell. The cell is still very much intact. This type of a gland cell where it produces its secretion and it still remains intact is referred to as the merocrine gland. A lot of glands come under merocrine: salivary glands, intestinal glands, pancreas, you have your stomach gastric glands, you have goblet cells, and you also have your tear glands. All of them come under merocrine. Okay. And what if the secretion, so apocrine, what is apocrine? Now let me show it for you here. Now for example, this is a cell which is producing some kind of a secretion. Now along with the secretion, notice what happens here. A portion of the cell is also pinched off. So what is happening here? A part of the cell is getting pinched off along with the secretion. That means a part of the cell is damaged. So this kind of a gland is called apocrine. Okay. Then what about holocrine? Holocrine means there is a cell and the entire cell undergoes disintegration. It is damaged while the secretion is released to the outside. So this is an example of holocrine. So if the cell remains intact, it is merocrine. If the cell remains, if the cell gets damaged, the best example for holocrine is nothing but our sebaceous glands or oil glands. And apocrine, the best example is mammary glands. Merocrine glands, and another name for merocrine glands is epicrine, or there is another name that is called the eccrine glands. So remember, this is based on what happens or what is the fate of the cell once it gives out its secretion. Okay. So the second one, in skeletal muscle, the Z line is connected to. So where is it connected to? It is connected to actin, isn't it? Now you know what a sarcomere is. It is the functional unit, structural and functional unit. Now this is the Z line. One Z line to the next Z line is what is referred to as a sarcomere, and the thin filaments are attached to the sarcomere on both sides, and the thin filaments are nothing but the actin filaments, and you know that in between you have the thick filaments. The thick filaments are nothing but the myosin filaments, isn't it? So what I am shading here, very very thick, these are the myosin filaments. So let me just label it as M. M is myosin filaments, MYO, and this zigzag structure which is shown over here for diagrammatic purposes, this is a membrane which is referred to as the Z line, and as you can see, the Z line is attached to the actin filament and not the myosin filament. So the answer is actin filament. Which is the factor responsible for maturation of erythrocytes? It is vitamin B12. So option A. Common feature of earthworm and cockroach is that they are hermaphroditic. No, cockroach is not a hermaphrodite. They are molting of their cuticle. Earthworm does not molt. Ventral nerve cord, yes. Because both are non-chordates, all of you remember, only chordates have a dorsal hollow nerve cord. All invertebrates have a ventral nerve cord. Excretion by nephridia is not true because cockroach does not have nephridia. They have Malpighian tubules. So the common feature is only the second option. Number of thoracic and abdominal ganglia, we had discussed this in the cockroach. The thoracic ganglia are 3 in number and abdominal ganglia are 6 in number. So it is the second option. Which of the following animals have a ventral nerve cord? Now here among the following, if you want to know that which has a ventral nerve cord, both of them should be invertebrates. So Pila is an invertebrate, leech is an invertebrate, cockroach, starfish, cockroach, earthworm, all of these. So all of these possess, what do they possess? They possess a ventral nerve cord, okay? Then tegmina of cockroach is supplied with nerve from which ganglion? From mesothoracic ganglion. In the thorax there are 3 ganglia, one in the prothorax, one in the mesothorax. Prothorax is the first thoracic segment, mesothorax is the second thoracic segment, metathorax is the third thoracic segment. You all know I had shown you, if this is the head of the cockroach, we had seen that there is a triangular shield, and you cannot see the first thoracic segment because of the triangular shield over here, and you can see portions of the second thoracic and the third thoracic segments here. The second thoracic segment is attached to the forewing, which is called tegmina, and the third thoracic segment is attached to a membranous wing, that is the hind wing. So they're asking about the tegmina, which happens to be the second thoracic segment. So which is the second thoracic? This is the first thoracic segment hidden by this triangular structure. Do you recall what this triangular structure is called? It is called pronotum. It is a chitinous shield, chitinous plate. Then this is the second thoracic segment. What is the name given to the second thoracic segment? It is called mesothorax. And this is the third thoracic segment. This is called metathorax. So because the forewing or tegmina is attached, this is the forewing. It is opaque and leathery and hard, and it is attached to the second thoracic segment, and obviously the ganglion in the mesothorax must innervate the tegmina. Okay, so seventh one is option C. Metamorphosis in cockroach is regulated by a gland which is referred to as corpora allata, which is very closely associated with the cerebral ganglion of the cockroach. And this corpora allata produces a hormone that is referred to as the juvenile hormone. The juvenile hormone, so the answer to this question, which is related to the previous question, is the second option. And please remember, the juvenile hormone maintains the nymphal stages. Actually, it is larval stages, but in cockroach there is nothing called a larva. Can you recall what type of metamorphosis is seen in cockroach? It is called metabole or gradual metamorphosis. So this nymphal stage is maintained by the juvenile hormone. Okay, and you all know that the nymph undergoes, how many times does it molt? It molts 13 times before it becomes an adult cockroach. Who is responsible for molting process? It is the molting hormone. The technical term for molting hormone is ecdysone. Okay, so molting is regulated by ecdysone. Molting means, you know, it sheds off its exoskeleton periodically and grows a new one. And one of them is maintaining the nymphal stages, which is the juvenile hormone. Metamorphosis in insects is regulated by, like we saw, molting is regulated by ecdysone or the molting hormone. And this is the job of ecdysone, is to regulate the process of metamorphosis. Now, ecdysone is produced by a special gland which is called the prothoracic gland, which is located in the prothoracic region of insects. And this is what triggers the signal or provides the signal for the insect to undergo molting. The inner lining of your gut, which is your stomach, intestine, and your liver, is lined with what? Obviously, simple columnar epithelium. And especially if you remember, in the intestine, it has microvilli. So, second option. Erythrocytes of adult mammals are formed where? In the bone marrow, isn't it? So, you have the red bone marrow. In the red bone marrow, there is a process that is called erythropoiesis, formation of red blood cells. This erythropoiesis is a process which brings about the formation of red blood cells. Okay, so this is the answer being third option, that is the red bone marrow. Which one is the factor responsible for maturation of erythrocytes? Again, hemoglobin, vitamin B12. Okay. The component units of cockroach compound I, Ommatidia. How many Ommatidia per I? 2000 Ommatidia. Ommatidia are nothing but units of I. These Ommatidia are also called the simple eyes. isn't it? So it is the second option. Okay, so with this we have covered a few practice questions from each chapter. I urge you to open your NEET manuals, and you've already done it in your first year. Please go through all the MCQs, and I'm very sure it will cover much of the syllabus and it will give you enough confidence to face your NEET examination. So thank you so much. Have a nice day, all of you.